So welcome back to another episode, and I thought in this episode I would take a look at a lot of video game cases that have been released over the years, and I'm going to look at the NES up to the Nintendo Switch and everything in between. There may be a few systems that I miss, but pretty much I think I'm covering probably around 95% of the video game boxes that were created, the cases. And I really want to do this because it's fascinating how the cases have changed over the years. I mean, every company is doing their own different design, and it's going to be fun to look at the designs and how they've changed through the years and how everybody just did their own particular thing. I also just want to say this is for main consoles. This is not for handhelds. It's not for Japanese games. This is only for North American games here. So let us start at the NES. And here was the amazing cases for the NES games right here. I always love these, but guess what happened? When you were younger, your parents would buy this for you, you'd open it up, and here's the game itself in its own little slipcase. So you'd put this next to your Nintendo, your parents would take out the instruction manual like so, give that to you, and then they would throw out the box. They just thought this was not part of the game. This is the game. This is all you need. Who cares about this? Boom, it was gone. So there was a lot of games back then that I still don't have the boxes for. I only have the games for. And that's why you find in the wild, most times, you just see NES games on their own. But what do I think of the case itself? I think this is pretty nostalgic. It's pretty classic, isn't it? Everybody has seen an NES box for sure. They're all over the place, and I love these designs, and I always love the little black slipcases you got with Nintendo written on it. Very nostalgic, very classic, and so this was the first real box art, case I'd ever seen, and I thought this is really cool. And then the Sega Master System came out right here, and these were the cases, and this is how they were, looking towards each other, pretty much the same size. But the Master System cases were unified with all of the lines running up and down with some really cruddy box art. So that was always the thing with the cases for the Master System. And this is what the cases look like inside. You have your game, and then you have your manual. And I'm obviously a bit older, so I really enjoy both these cases here. I think they're both excellent. I like this one because it's a bit plasticky, and this is just kind of cardboardy. This is a bit more durable. It's got like a kind of sheet over it, which kind of protects the artwork a little bit. Where this one, if it gets wet, it's done. But this one could kind of take a little bit more damage. Okay, so these cases were pretty cool. Then we were entering into next generation times. We were moving forward from the Sega Master System into the Sega Genesis. And again, Sega really liked the outside plastic around there to protect the artwork. And this is what it looked like on the inside. Pretty much like the Master System, pretty classic. This is what all Genesis boxes were like, especially with the peg here to hold it up on the store shelf. Later on, Sega got a little cheaper and started releasing the cardboard box as cases here, and not as much of a fan of these. I found them very kind of cheap. Look at the inside here, and also the black and white manuals. But we're not getting into that. That's an entire other thing. We always used to have color manuals, then they got cheaper, and we started getting black and white manuals. But the case, look at this, compared to the earlier days. I mean, they were trying to cut corners, save a bit of money. I get it. It kind of hurt it overall. I really wish this was released in a box the same as this. So the Genesis was pretty unified this way. I didn't mind it. Now, some other machines were coming into the fray. One of them is a favorite of mine, and that is the TurboGrafx 16. All of the games would come in a case like this, and I really like this because it's all artwork right at the front here. Say this is for Kadash, and right on the back, really big box art. And I just want to show you comparatively what it was like compared to a Genesis box here. Way bigger, way bigger. Look at that. Way wider. And I always appreciated this. But what's interesting is you didn't just take the game out, you would take out another CD insert game. And so it looks like a CD case. This was a CD case. You opened it up. They were credit card sized games. Also, if it was for the CD-ROM attachment, you'd have a CD in here as well. So this is some of my, I must say, some of my favorite boxes from this time. I think it's really nice. It's all about the artwork. And it's just, TurboGrafx was just doing its own thing with sizing and shape. And big fan of this. Really like that a lot. Okay, there was another underdog in the arcade scene that was becoming a little bit bigger. They moved to the home console market with the most expensive machine on the market at the time. It's still expensive by today's standards. When they released the Neo Geo AES home console, and this gets the distinction of being the biggest case released for any system. 3DO is kind of close, but look at this. Look how big this is. Comparatively, we're gonna do it to a Genesis box out here. Look at this. Neo Geo was all about bigger, badder, and better. And let me say, it won me over. When I was in stores and I saw this mofo on a shelf, I was like, that is crazy. Why is it so huge? And I realized it because, quite honestly, it was the arcade game at home. And so what you do is, here, this is the size of the carts. Gigantic. And they'd always have, look in the case as well, the manual inside. So it was usually underneath the cart right here. But Neo Geo, I will say at this point, wins in bigger, badder, better, gigantic cartridge case. No other machine came close to this. And I think this is why people love to collect the Neo Geo. It looks great on a shelf. I mean, you need a big shelf for all your Neo Geo games because there's so much to this case. All right, so we were going from the NES to the Super Nintendo, and the Super Nintendo decided to do their own thing. And they came up with this case right here, and we'll show you in comparison compared to the NES here. Yeah, they just kind of flipped it on its side. We're like, yeah, we'll go on the side for this one. And it's such a strange idea, but I remember seeing the boxes, and the one thing is I really liked about consoles back then, every console was doing something different with its cases. So when I saw the Super Nintendo, I was like, oh, they're doing like kind of a side view now. I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's interesting. I really enjoyed the artwork. I enjoyed the back of it and the sides, all that kind of going on. And then you'd open it up and you'd slide out your game right here. This is my original Mystical Ninja, by the way. And the instructions would be behind it. But there's the game itself. And this is how this case kind of worked. And I think a lot of people, besides myself, love the Super Nintendo boxes. They just think they're so nostalgic and so excellent. And I fully agree. I'm really on board with the Super Nintendo and its case. I think it's a really nice case. Now, also the Genesis had a CD-ROM attachment to it, and they started releasing CD games, which came in its own unique box. Now, I gotta say something here. I'm gonna bring up the Genesis again to show you the size comparison again, and they really wanted to make this a really big deal. I'm gonna open this up. This is the cardboard one. There we go. So we take out the game itself right here. So it's quite a big box just for having the game right down in the bottom there. I guess it's they really wanted to make it look like a big deal on a shelf, just like the Neo Geo one. But the Neo Geo one had a big cartridge in there, so that kind of made a lot of sense. Now, this was the cardboard version of the Sega CD games back then. Here is what most of them looked like, and comparatively, the same size. This is cardboard. This is all done with nice plastic, and these cases are really nice, and I have to say, they are extremely unique. If I open this up, Take the styrofoam out there. There's your game, nicely in there. Your instruction manual is right here. This is a really interesting case. Really interesting case. I really like the Sega CD cases. I think they're fantastic. Show a lot of artwork there, and I remember when you would get the case. I remember when I got Lunar. This is my original Lunar. When I got this back in the day, I was like, this seems like something cool, and it seems like they put a lot of care into the case. It wasn't just like a cardboard, quickly put together thing. It seemed to really care about putting together, and so I really, really like this. Okay, here's some strange ones. I told you that the Neo Geo is probably the biggest case that was ever released for consoles. There was one that was close, and that is they're right here, and they're in cruddy shape because they were back in the day. This is the 3DO cases, and these are two of my favorite games on the 3DO, and that is Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and Samurai Showdown. These are the best ways to have the arcade games at home. And look at this. Can they make this any more awkward to put on shelves? I mean, they didn't hold well together. If you look over the years, they've just fallen apart. That's a lot to do with me when I was younger. I didn't really care for these things the way I should have, but they are just not the greatest cases. They're really cardboardy, and if there's nothing in them and something goes on top of them, it just crunches them to death. This is probably my least favorite case, I've got to say. But the interesting thing is when you take the game out, it's a CD size, box. It's basically a CD case. So that's what that is. But it comes in this huge box, and I remember the manuals were like so long that came with it, and you're like, what? This is weird. I remember everything about the 3DO was just weird. It just kind of always rubbed me the wrong way. All right, now we move into the Sega Saturn time. And this is an interesting one. I know a console that didn't do that well, but they were building, kind of interestingly, on the Sega CD boxes. Here's a Saturn box. Here's a Sega CD box. Pretty unified. The way they were doing it, having the logo for Sega CD here and for Saturn right here, and a lot more attention to box size art there. Very nice. And so let's have a look at Panzer Dragoon, Saga inside, and the inside of the Sega CD one. They're pretty much identical. Obviously, there's multiple discs for Panzer Dragoon there, so that's why that's being held in by these things right here. So realistically, Sega followed the Sega Saturn, the Sega CD with the Sega Saturn to kind of mimic this, and they did a pretty good job. And I like the cases for the Sega Saturn games, just kind of like I did for the Sega CD. Now the PlayStation was jumping into the scene, and at first they came out with some unusual boxes. They came out with the long boxes, and then all of a sudden, after a while, they're like, you know what, scrap it, and they went to this. Just basic CDs right here. And I really appreciate this. It was a lot smaller, a lot more compact, and really, really cool. But they took the safe route and they did this and turned out pretty good. And then if you had games with multiple discs, they did the double discs right here for multiple disc games. The one thing I want to say is I love these double disc games. When I would buy a game like this, I thought, okay, I'm getting a game, but when I get the double disc, I was like, oh wait, I'm getting double the game. It felt like that, and so big nostalgia for the double CD cases for the PlayStation 1. What an awesome time. Now, the Nintendo 64 was just about to launch, and it did with Mario 64. Finally, we also got Zelda, and here's the collector's case for Zelda. Zelda 64 right here, Ocarina of Time. Very nice looking stuff. Again, they pretty much followed the Super Nintendo route. Nearly identical. And just like the Super Nintendo, it has the cartridge in it as well. So Nintendo really was like, you know what, we're happy with our design. Just kind of like Sega was happy with their design. We don't want to change anything at all. And Sega decided to change something finally when they got to the Dreamcast era. they went into CD-ROM format as well. Even though it was a GD-ROM, they did the CD casing that everybody was doing with the PlayStation there. So they're like, hey, why are we going to get nuts? Let's just go and do this, and let's do what they were doing on PlayStation, and release any multiple disc game with dual disc cases here for like Shenmue and stuff like that. So again, love the single CDs, love the multiple CDs going on here, the GD-ROMs, for sure. Very cool stuff. And yeah, this is when things become a little bit more unified and companies stop getting really experimental with their cases. And that's when the Bouncer comes out on the PlayStation 2. I'm just bringing this up in general. We started to go the DVD route where all of the cases were pretty much like a DVD. The good thing is, and the interesting thing about a PlayStation 2 case was, they always had a thing for your memory card here. And I gotta say, I never ever stuck a memory card here. I don't remember ever doing that once with any of these cases at all. But anyways, PlayStation 2 was very rudimentary by doing the DVD thing, and then they would do the special ones if a big game was coming out with like an extra manual. They'd sometimes do this with the cardboard. This is for PS2 as well. This is for Dragon Quest VIII. PlayStation 2 though, it's cool. I really like what they do, but this is where, as I say, everything becomes pretty standard after this, because we get into the GameCube. What do? Pretty much the same thing as the PS2, sizing almost identical, even though you open it up and you got your mini disc in there. And it's pretty funny, they have a little memory card slot up there as well, so you can put your memory card there. I don't know why everybody was carrying around their memory cards in their cases. I certainly didn't, but I always kept them at home. Never wanted to get them erased by some friends or stuff like that. But GameCube, yeah, pretty standard cases. And then the Xbox comes out. What do we get? Standard DVD size once again for cases, standard. And after that, we pretty much are into the Xbox 360, standard size once again. But wait, the PlayStation 3 comes out, and it's like, you know what? We'll make it just a little bit smaller, And that's what they did. So the PS3 is just a little bit smaller than standard like DVD size, Blu-ray size. And then the Wii launches. Here's the Wii, standard size once again. So it matches like something like the Xbox 360 perfectly. PS3 is smaller, which is funny. So yeah, you can see that all of a sudden we kind of went into that Blu-ray DVD sizing, and it never really changed after that. The Wii U comes out, and the Wii U is pretty much same as the Wii. Exactly the same there. Same everything. We started to minus manuals and things like that. It started getting cheaper and cheaper that way. Manuals almost became non-existent. You'd have to download them somewhere. And then the PS4, same thing once again. They took it a little size up. They went back to their original Blu-ray sizing for games. But isn't that interesting that in the past they were so experimental, and then they're like, no, let's just go standard with everything. And I'm kind of glad for the shelves for sometimes displaying the stuff. I like it when everything kind of matches a little bit. Don't look at this. This doesn't make any sense, does it? Then the Nintendo Switch comes out and shakes it all up. Because they could go as small as they wanted, because they have these very small carts right here. And so they start coming out with these really small little cases, which I appreciate, because I can put a lot more of these on a shelf. Than compared to a Neo. Look at that. Hey, let's do this, because it's gonna be fun. Hi, how you doing? Hey, not too bad. Look at the sizing. And what's so funny is the game on here is, oh my god, how many times bigger than this guy here. But hey, that was all about the 1990s. Bigger is better. And now It's all about smaller with a lot more power included. So one of my favorite cases, looking through all this, the best cases, gotta be the Neo Geo. Is right there. Big fan of the Super Nintendo. Big fan of the TurboGrafx case. Really love that there. Oh, man, you know, to be honest with you, I really like a lot of these. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch is beautiful to collect for. I love the double cases for PlayStation. And obviously, I talked about the Sega CD. This is probably one of the nicer boxes. I just love the plastic on there all around to protect the game and the artwork. I think that's really incredible. I think that these are some of my favorites right here. Everything else is pretty standard, pretty much what we've seen before. So guys, let me know down in the comments below, what are some of your favorite video game cases? The packaging, everything that goes on the game itself. Which one is your favorite? Let me know. So anyways, guys, until next time.